Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all for joining in today for Lifelong Learners. And I'm your talk show host, Terrence Perry, and we have an honored guest with us today, uh, none other than Mother Betty Dixon, uh, right now of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I will let her tell you a lot about herself. She have a lot to share with you today. Some of you already know who she is, but for those that don't, get ready to get an earful today. How you doing, Mother Dixon?
God bless you, baby. How are you today?
As they say, blessed and highly favored, and I'm glad to have you here with us today.
Yeah, it's a great day to be here.
I also
Thank
want
you
to,
for having me.
yeah, I'm honored that you took the time out your schedule today to come and sit down with me and chat for a little bit.
My pleasure.
Um, and before we get started and further, just want to let the audience know again, I appreciate you all for tuning in. And if you want to call into the show today, feel free to call in at 919-518-9773. Again, we have Mother Betty Dixon with us today. And I want to just welcome our producer, Amnon.
Hello, Terrence. How are you?
I'm good, man, and ready to get started. How about yourself?
I'm just fine. You look exceptionally snazzy.
Well, thank you, Amnon. I'll take that as such. And just kind of go with the flow into the show a little bit. Before I tell you a lot about Miss Dixon, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, a little bit about her background coming from Virginia to Raleigh, North Carolina. So, Miss Dixon, do you mind sharing a little bit about you getting started in Virginia and coming to Raleigh in the you came in the mid '60s,
I came in '68.
right?
And I was raised in Danville, Virginia with my parents. And in the year of 1955, I met and married James Dixon Jr. And we had four children: Cynthia, Annette, Darnell, and Titus. And we stayed there. And later on in life, my husband was called to go into the Marine Corps, and he went there for 4 years. And when he came from serving his country, he decided that he was wanted to start a church. And you asked me before that we sit down and make a decision to come or how we did it. He made the decision, and I had to follow. It wasn't great for me to leave my family and my surroundings and everybody that I knew, amen, and come to Raleigh, North Carolina. But that was our sole purpose, to come to Raleigh to build a Bible Way Church. And that's how we got to come to Raleigh. But while in Danville, uh, I served in the civil rights movement. It was an offspring of SCLC, uh, headed by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And our section of it was called the Danville Christian Progressive Association, and I served as the secretary. And there, later on, when we were doing our activities, um, my husband and I both went to jail because of the demonstration and the struggle that we were going through. But we didn't go at the same time. As a matter of fact, my husband wasn't supposed to go at all. I knew it was might be possible that I go, but he wasn't supposed to go at all because we had four small children. But he was sitting in my office one day, and we were giving out the information on how we were going to handle the march. And our cameraman that we thought was on our side followed us in the march. And when my husband called me back at the church to tell me that everybody had gotten arrested, he called me and said, and I am in that number. And I was so shocked because I thought he was on his way to work. And he stayed in for a week and got out. And then we went on with our activities. And then when they had the march on Washington, I marched on Danville with the crowd. And we got a permit to march. And they told us that we would not be arrested. And we weren't on that day. But they took our pictures. And later on, the officer came into the office one day and asked me if I knew this lady that he had put before me, and lo and behold, it was me. I didn't tell him that I knew the lady and I didn't know the lady, but I said, I wouldn't tell you if I knew.
He couldn't tell.
It was me. And so thereafter, I came to the office with bows in my hair, barrettes, everything, trying to disguise myself. So one day we had a march, and they locked the people up, and we had 40 people in the jail, and I had to go down to the jail to take the bonding fees, which was $2 a piece. So I had 80 some dollars in the bag. And when I got there, the jailer asked me my name, and I had to give him my name. Had no idea that he was gonna try to arrest me. And I gave him my name, and it took him so long in the back, I happened to look back, and he was typing up a warrant for my arrest. So it had to be the Lord to let me know to get up and go. So I got up and went back to the church. I said, because I can't take the people money to jail. So I went back to the church to carry the money, and drove my car back to my house. And when I got to my door, it was about 10 police cars out there, and the lights in Danville are red. They weren't blue. They were red lights. And they all drove in behind me. And my husband came out to rescue me, and he asked them to let him drive me down to the jail rather than for me to be arrested with the handcuffs. I thank the Lord for that. But I did go to jail. My husband went to jail, and a lot of other people went to jail. And I was there for the duration of the Danville Christian Progressive Association, which was a great experience for me.
How long was that?
How long was that? How
How
long?
long did you stay in jail?
I stayed in jail for 3 days, and stayed under bond. Listen, and stayed under bond for 10 years. After we moved to Raleigh, we were still under bond. We were under bond for 10 years. And where I was working, everybody would walk up to me and say, you know, the police might be looking for you today. You better watch over your shoulder. So, you know, that was agony, really. But I made it through. Yes.
Mother Dixon. So you all got married in the 60s, and your husband.
We got married in 55.
55.
Mm-hmm.
And so y'all had 5 kids.
4.
4 kids, and then you got when you all were, I guess, marching. He got locked up first, but they had said that they wasn't gonna lock him up. Now, was that for the demonstration?
Yeah, but see, he was just going. He came just to check on me to the office, and then was going to leave me and go to work. Okay. But while he was there, it wasn't time for him to go to work. He didn't go to work till 4 and got off at 12. Okay. So he followed the marchers, but the cameraman told the policeman that he was a spy. So, and that's how they locked him up. He wasn't supposed to be in the march. He was just walking alongside them. But I told him to call me when they got locked up. And when he called me, he told me that he had been arrested. And he said, I saw the cameraman when he told the policeman that I was a spy.
He told me he was a spy.
Yes.
And so, and they held him in.
They held him in jail for a week.
For 5 days.
Yes.
Man, that's. And then later.
Are you talking about spy against the U.S.?
No, a spy to spy on them to call back to the office.
Oh, okay.
To let me know.
Okay, sure.
No.
All right.
Those were the words that he used when he pointed to my husband. Said he's a spy.
So, but your husband was actually actually a pastor at the time?
Yes, he was.
At that time,
he was a minister in the local church. Yes.
Okay. So then you all made the decision to leave Virginia and come to Raleigh, North Carolina, and you said that he made the decision and you
followed.
You followed.
Yes.
So that was the plan, that you all come to Raleigh and start the Bible Way.
The Bible Way Church, yes.
Church.
Which is now pastored by my son, Apostle Darnell Dixon Jr. Senior, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Senior.
Okay. So you all still.
The church is going well.
So y'all came in 68.
We came in 68, yes.
And got the church started
in 77.
77. So y'all been going since 77.
Yes.
That ministry has been evidently it's been powerful here in Raleigh. It's still going today.
Yes.
So, and your son actually got into the ministry, just following in daddy's footsteps.
Yes.
And
before he started pastoring, though, he had been an evangelist traveling all over the country for 17 years. So he had the experience and everything. But when my husband's health started failing and I saw that he could no longer function properly as the pastor of the church, I asked him to call my son in off the field and let him take over the church so that I could take care of him. And that's what he did. So my husband lived to see him pastor for 13 years. Okay. And then he went on to glory.
Okay. Now, take me back again to the 60s. Now, you said that you all, Martin Luther King came to Virginia. I know he came to Raleigh also, but you all, you all met him when he came to Virginia. Was it Danville?
Danville, Virginia.
Danville,
yes,
Virginia that he came to.
Read Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., C.T. Vivian. These guys were all in the civil rights movement. Reverend Dunlap, Reverend L.W. Chase, Bishop Lawrence G. Campbell. We had all of those people, Avon Rollins, Harold Shulsworth, Harold Middlebrook. It was just so many of them. Then we had SNCC to come in to help us, headed by Claudia Edwards and James Orange and Leonard Cowan. We just had so many that came in, and we would sing our usual songs. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, and we shall overcome. And we would just walk and pray and sing. And we had the hose pipes held on us. We had to lay down in the streets, to stop the traffic. We were trying to get the attention because we needed it at that time. I remember my husband was working the night shift, and his uncle died in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was 7 months pregnant. So when he got off at 12 o'clock, we had to go to Charlotte. And on the way driving, he got sleepy, and I couldn't drive at the time, and we could not get a hotel because of the color of our skin. And we had to sleep in the car. And I think about that time now, I could be killed, and my husband and my baby. But I thank the Lord that he preserved our lives. So that is the reason why I am still working on some things today that's not right. I'm still working. I'm still working, trying to make some things right that I see that is wrong.
So that was even in what? So when was that in '60? That the hotel they wouldn't even let y'all
in the '60s,
stay in the hotel.
'60s and the '70s. My husband used to get up every Saturday morning and go to the library and sit in because our kids couldn't use the library. So we have been through quite a bit, and we had the guns held on us, hose pipes held on us, and you think those hose pipes are about that big, but man, they're not. They're big.
So now, where were you all at when the hose pipes was held? Were you all in Danville, Virginia?
In Danville, Virginia, on Hallbrook Street. I'll never forget it.
And you all were demonstrating because at the time.
Let me give you an example. I carried my son to the doctor's office, and he experienced this, a little boy. And we had to get up out of our seat and let a white person have our seat. And he didn't. That hasn't gotten out of his mind yet. He still talk about it. He doesn't hold anything in his heart, because I didn't raise them that way. Right. But he often think about it, And he told me many a times if he had been grown at the time when we were coming on, he don't know what might have happened. But I thank the Lord he brought him out. So we've had some experience.
And like I said, it hadn't been that long ago. If you're talking about, from the '60s to now, and let me kind of just ask from what was going on in the '60s, and then here we are today.
2016.
Right. Now, it seemed like again, and I don't know if it's just me or I was born in 1960, and now here we go in 2016, and it feels like and it seems like we're back back there all over again, in certain ways.
Yes, in a lot of ways, and in the same ways, because since I have been down here in Raleigh, I went to the flower shop to send a flower to a baby that was born at church, and the lady said, "While you picking out, while I'm fixing your arrangements, said pick out a card for your baby." And I looked at all the cards, and all the cards in the corner had a white baby. And so when she came back, she said, "Did you find a card you like?" I said, "Yes, I found a lot of nice cards." I said, "But this flower is going to a black baby." So when I went back the next time, she had taken out the white babies and didn't put black babies on there. They put flowers in the corner, which was great. You know, that means that anybody that walked in could use them. But I couldn't send a white baby to a black person. And then I went to marry my husband on our 25th wedding anniversary, and I went to Sharps and couldn't find a burgundy suit in Raleigh. So we went to Cary, and we found one in Cary on a white man. And he opened up the book and showed it to me. And I said to him, I said, "I found a burgundy one." I said, "But my husband is black. I don't know how he's going to look in a burgundy suit." And he said, "Well, ma'am, I hadn't thought of that." But I went back and he had a burgundy suit on a black man. So some changes have been made. And just recently, I went to a restaurant, and the place was full of black people after church, and I didn't see no black waitresses. All of them were white. So I went and I asked the man at the desk to see the manager, and the manager came, and I asked him if he had any black waitresses. I said, "Because all your customers are black." He said, "Yes, we have them. They're just not working today." So what I did, I went to the back, to the kitchen, and I asked the black person. I knew I'd find a black person in the kitchen. So I asked them, I said, "Do you all have black waitresses?" And he said, "No." I went back to the man. I said, your staff said you don't have black waitresses." I said, "I don't think that's fair." So what I did, I went round from table to table. I stopped eating because I couldn't eat no more because he had lied to me, number one.
Right.
So I went from table to table, and he saw me talking to people because I was telling them we couldn't come to spend our money in a place where they don't have our people out there making tips like everybody else. You know, black people in the kitchen don't get no tips. So I found out later that he has black waitresses, and one black lady is a supervisor. Yay!
There you go.
So I'm still doing some things that I see that needs to be right. And if you don't say anything, people, I tell you, things will stay the same.
Mother Dixon, let me ask you also, just I know going back to the '60s, but and even in the '50s again, when um, women voting, even now a lot of women they could come out and vote now, but in the '60s and the '50s, were you all encouraged to get out and vote, as well as the males, or how did that play out? I guess in the '50s and '60s when it came to voting. Um,
Well, we conducted a voters registration drive, and we found that a lot of blacks, period, were not registered. So what we had to do, we had to go from door to door and get people registered to vote. And then we had to go and pick them up and take, because they didn't have transportation. Then we had to go back and get them to take them to the polls to vote. So we found out that it was both ways. They didn't know to vote, some of them, and some of them just didn't understand. A lot of them didn't have the education to even know how to fill out the ballot. So we had a lot of work to do back then. But now the people are doing a lot better about getting out to the polls, registered, and voting. And even in Danville, we didn't even have public transportation in the projects where I lived. And the first job that I had in Danville was community organizer, and it was not really a job because I volunteered, but I was such a good worker until they hired me. So I organized Liberty View to go to the to sign a petition first I had to get them together in a meeting, and then we signed a petition to take to the city council and have them to approve it to run transportation over there in the project so that people could come and go. And it got approved. The petition got approved, and then I had to go back and get the people to ride the bus. So we just rode the bus just on general principle, so that we could get the bus running for public transportation there.
I want to kind of, I'm gonna back up just a little bit to just kind of come up to speed with even.
That's my phone.
Okay. And but even then, when you, I guess I want to kind of see where when you all started the church in Raleigh, the Bible Way Church. Were you all, I guess, more involved in activism and such? Then, when you came from Virginia and came to Raleigh, did you still have to do like I said the same things when you all started the church? Did you use that partly as a way to hold meetings and bring people together to talk to them about voting and
Yes.
and we still and the marching was was it used as a coming together place not
Yeah.
for just Sunday service but also
To organize, yes.
organize.
Yes, and we're still doing that today. If you would notice, I don't know if you read the paper, but just recently the guy that got killed on Bragg Street, the meeting there was held at our church to calm the people down so they wouldn't burn up the buildings and turn over cars and shoot people like they normally do in other cities when something like that happened. And my son, the apostle Dixon, he was out there with the people. And right now, he's just yesterday I saw where he is working with the government to have the people that have bad things on their record, like driving without.
Expungement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're having expungements. They're working on that now as we speak. And I think that's a great thing because you when you were living in that environment, you got in trouble way back then, and it's holding you back as you grow older. So they are getting those records straight so that the people will be able to function properly in the society where we now live.
Yeah, I know. Yesterday I was there. They were doing the expungements yesterday. Also at the I want to say the fellowship. Fellowship, and they'll be doing those expungements again today.
Yes.
But you should have seen the number of people that was there. Cars parked on both sides of the road. They were wrapped around the church. It was just that many people, and this is I want to say the fifth expungement that application thing that they've done, probably in the past six weeks.
Yes.
But it's been that big of a turnout. And again, that goes back to, like I said, earlier this year when Makia Dinkins was shot
Yes.
by the police officer. And there was a march.
Yes.
And your son.
He said he thought it would be better to lead them to a march to use up the energy that they had so that they wouldn't turn over cars and burn up buildings. He told them that we were intelligent people and that's not the way that you solve problems. And he was very instrumental in having everything calm down the way that it was. And now the city is keeping him busy more now than ever before. But he's such a busy man. He just got back from Mexico. So I just don't know how he does everything that he get done. But the Lord is on his side, and he's still working hard. And I'm thankful that the Lord blessed me to have someone to work in that part of the vineyard.
But see, the thing I know also too, he's also worked alongside with Diana Powell with Justice Serve.
Yes.
And she's actually also been heading up that expungement
Yes.
piece that's going on now.
Yes.
But those two together were able to.
Yeah, she was the one that introduced him to it. As a matter of fact, we fed the community, and they were they had people to come and fill out the papers so that they could work with them now, and that's what they are doing. And I appreciate her also.
Oh yeah, and they'll, like I said again, they'll be out again today. They'll be out still handling those expungements, and I'm
Yes,
sure it's going to be just as many people out again today as it was yesterday. In
yes,
that, and she's going to be coming on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about the things that she's doing with Justice Serve, and some of the work that we were doing inside the jails and in the courtrooms
oh, that is great.
that we um, well, as of late, they've been doing more of the expungement stuff,
Yes,
and I hadn't
yes,
been as involved. But I know you've also was more involved in also doing the food bank
yes,
for
yes.
a
As a matter
long
of
time.
fact, I had a nonprofit organization. It was called CAD&T Incorporated, where I had the food bank, and I also had a counseling service to help the elderly to not get involved with the telemarketing because they were preying on them, getting them involved in stuff over the phone that they were not familiar with, and like selling them alarm systems, telling them that it was free, not letting them know there was going to be a monthly charge, stuff
Right.
like that. And I worked through my organization to bring some knowledge to them about that, along with the food bank. And we fed many families along with the church. I had my nonprofit, and the church had their nonprofit.
Okay.
And right now we're getting ready to feed again on November the 19th. Yeah,
November 19th.
we're going to feed the community again. Yeah, so we are calling them together so that we can work better together and work more in the community to bring people.
Okay. Well, and keep me posted on that. And I also want to just ask you to let people know how they could get in touch with you and your son, and you all under the Bible Way Church. Well, when you all have service, and are, are you all there on Wednesday nights for Bible study?
We are there for on Monday nights for Bible study and midlife celebration on Wednesdays at 7:30. Our service start at 7:30. We are there on Sunday mornings from 9 a.m. until the Lord say go home, and our morning worship start at 10 a.m. And we are located at 1110 Home Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27601. And you are cordially invited to come. And if you need to get in touch with my son or me, you can call us at 919-833-4466. Now, the Bible Way Temple.
So the Bible Way. Now, let me ask you, how big a congregation do you go? Because I've seen, I haven't been inside the church,
Yes.
but I've seen it on Facebook where you all were having a service. It looked like it's a big church.
We
I saw
have a
big screen TVs and I mean, how big a congregation do
We
you all
have
have?
a capacity to serve 500 people.
Okay.
And when we first came, we could only, as a matter of fact, when we first came, we started on the street. So we didn't have any seats at all. But now we are at 500.
That's fine. Man,
Yes.
that's awesome. And you all like I said, started in '77,
Yes.
and it's still going. You're still going strong.
Still going strong.
Again, like I said, I want to. First of all, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today and just sharing with us the kind of the legacy that you all have created, moving from Virginia, coming to Raleigh, starting about the Bible Way Church, and just what you all have done as a family to help bring light, inspiration, and encouragement to Raleigh, North Carolina, with all that you all have done. You in particular, which you didn't talk about a lot, that you've done personally, and you've served on many boards. You
Yes.
that we didn't mention. You've been a head of boards, you've been assistant on boards, but you've been down through there, and you're still there helping out. So I want to thank you for just being who you are and who you have been throughout that time. It takes a dedicated person to stick it out like that, to go in that mindset with, hey, this is my mission, this is my cause, my purpose, and this is what I'm here, and this is what I'm here to do. Um,
I thank you so much for having me, and it was so nice to meet your producer, and I've enjoyed myself, and maybe I will come back again.
you look, you know we have a seat here for you, so feel free to come back. But particularly the beginning of the year, we look forward to. I want you to come back and tell us what you all have going on with the church after the holidays, and so forth. So I want to just thank again, Mother Dixon, for coming and joining us.
Thank you, and God bless you, baby.
You too. You have a blessed evening. All right, and we're gonna continue with the second half of the show, and I'll be bringing on the next guest, which is Dr. Timothy Stockert. And Dr. Timothy will be talking about his new book in just a few minutes, and also a little bit about the company that he's involved in. So we're going to move right along, and without further ado, I will be introducing you all to, again, Dr. Timothy Stockert. He's the author of his new book called The Journey, Creating and Sustaining High Performance. Now, I will let him go into detail about what the book is all about, and I have several questions that I want to dive right into with him. Dr. Timothy, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to have you with us today. I'm glad you brought your book, The Journey, Creating, Sustaining, and High Performance. You're gonna have to elaborate, let us know what the book is about. But before we get into the book, can you just tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are in terms of Dr. Timothy?
Sounds fair.
Okay.
I've basically been working with executives and leaders throughout, actually, I guess, the world for the last 40 years. So I started my career here in Raleigh with what was called Caroline Power and Light at that time, and also some work with the state government, and then started my own company over 30 years ago. And since that time, we've been just about everywhere trying to help organizations make themselves healthy and supportive of the people that lead them and the people that perform in them. So this last year, I finally was asked and forced by several clients to write some of these ideas and thoughts up, and that's what's in the book. And I thank you for inviting me on today.
Okay, and I'll just say Dr. Timothy. And again, anybody that want to call.
How about just Tim?
Tim. All right. Before we get too far in the show, I do want to let the audience know that they can call in to the show, ask Dr. Tim questions or myself or Amnon. You can call in at 919-518-9773. We're going to talk with Dr. Tim a little bit about his book called The Journey, Creating and Sustaining High Performance. But before we get into the book, I want to get into the work that he's done, I guess, that kind of led to the book that we're going to talk about a little further down the road. Now, the organization that I want to call you the leader of that organization, Innova, how's that pronounced? Innova. Innova Group Incorporated. Could you tell us a little bit about that collaboration of professional people like yourself that came together, and just what you all do? There's several things that you all do that I guess I'm gonna need you to break them down a little bit as we go into it, just to let the audience know a little bit about what that's all about.
Well, it was interesting. The lady was on here before, listening talk about all the contributions she makes to the church and being able to create potential in people and being able to believe in people. So Nova Group was founded back in the mid 80s as an attempt to help organizations maximize their potential. Most organizations operate no more than on 10 or 20%. And that would be a very efficient organization in terms of the potential that people possess in the organizations. So I founded the organization, got other people to join me, and we've been doing leadership development, organization change, different types of things with process improvements for the last 30 years. And we've been all over the world practically. We've been most of the places in Europe, certainly Canada, places like just about every state in the Union. So it's been quite a journey. I'm getting kind of old now for this kind of thing, but my passion for it is high because a few years ago we had one of our new employees, and they were attending one of our week-long leadership programs at Duke University. And when she finished, she was very spiritual, and she came up and she said, "Now I know where your church is." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, it's obvious that this is your church. This is what you felt as a calling." And I guess that's what I do. And I enjoy it, love doing it, and really appreciate anybody's willingness to let us be of contribution and add value.
So, and I know one of the things that you say, but it's not your quote, but you use it. You said no one can make anything extraordinary happen alone or by themselves. So, can you speak to that quote? Why that's so powerful and meaningful to you in what you do?
Well, I received my doctoral degree from NC State University, and it was at a time that some extraordinary things were happening, led by a coach called Jim Balvano. And one of his quotes was about, every day something extraordinary happens, and it's done by ordinary people. And so that made sense to me. But then as I kept being involved in organizations and doing things, I realized that it was at a time when you always had one strong leader at the top, and that seemed a person that set the heartbeat and made things happen. But more and more I realized that because you're only using a small percentage of what the potential people are, that it takes more than that. And so over time, that's what we try to do, is to try to get more people engaged. Now today, if you do all readings and management materials or Fortune Magazine or Harvard Business Review, you're going to see article after article on how organizations are trying to get more people engaged, more participation. And that another quote that's often used said that culture always eats a structure for breakfast. And what that is about, and Peter Drucker is the person who said that, he was saying that you can't build a bunch of boxes and keep people in it and get what you need out of it or maximize the potential of the organization or the person. That's only done by how people think, communicate, and act. And so the Innova Group has been trying to help managers understand more about that, help employees be able to work with managers in more effective ways to make better things happen, and not to optimize things, but to be able to maximize it so that everybody wins for the mutual benefit of all. A long answer. I'm sorry.
No, don't be. I want the long answer if that's kind of good. But there was also, and I won't say that there's a quote, but I was reading something that you had stated that there was a paradigm shift. I guess industry have changed from, I guess, the way it was. Well, what you said was this is the fourth industrial revolution or evolution, and that change, there's been a paradigm shift, I guess, of what the focus should be on. But can you talk to us about that paradigm shift and what that shift has been from, I guess, your perspective?
Well, it's not necessarily mine, but many people write about this, that, most of us understand the Industrial Revolution. Most of us weren't here for the Agricultural Revolution, although I grew up on a dairy farm, and best day of my life was seeing that farm in the rearview mirror. A dairy farm 7 days a week, about 20 hours a day. But what had happened in the Industrial Revolution, we learned about putting things in sequence and being able to do mass production. And then, the next evolution that came about, the third Industrial Revolution, is when we started understanding more about how we could use these things. And we started looking at applications in that way. And all of a sudden, the computer occurred. And when the computer occurred, we entered what's called the fourth industrial revolution, which is all about hooking our brain power and our potential up with computers. So I was just reading the other day about the next generation of BMW cars, and they're not going to have mirrors. The car will actually read the road and tell you what's going on. Now we already have cars that will warn you if you're going inside or outside the lines.
Right.
And so what's this mean in terms of how we're going to interact? Many years ago, out of Silicon Valley, their strategies were to build a TV that would be interactive with your computer. So you're not just watching TV and reacting, but you're going to be interactive. Your show here represents that. You're part of this fourth industrial revolution, because not only can people watch and see, but they can interact. And we see that even when recently in our presidential election, you see people using internet and using cell phones to interact while the actual people are talking. So we have a whole new world. We don't totally understand it. It's moving at the speed of light, light being how fast we turn electricity on. And the innovation is not something that we do once in a while. We're doing it, moment by moment.
That's true.
And so if we're not culturally focused, if we're not thinking, communicating, acting the right way, we're not going to be there. Your show represents a new way of thinking. A linear thinker would never do something what you have here, because they can only see this being done by big studios and big organizations and things of that sort. But you're using all the things that are capable. You're thinking as a system, input, process, output, and you're being able to create more communication, inform people better, and allow people to interact and learn interactively with you as you explore the world with them. And so the reason I'm here is that this represents the fourth industrial revolution.
Fourth industrial revolution. Also, on that same note, within the paradigm shift now, and I've been hearing that there's a lot of talk about in the year 2020, there's going to be another shift, or the paradigm shift will have shifted totally by 2020. Exactly what shift are they talking about? And I know we're still talking about the revolution of technology and information, but how is that going to shift from 2016 now to in 2020? I mean, because things are happening at the speed of, like I said, at the speed of sight. So you're talking about in less than 4 years, about 3 years and now. So it's going to be another big shift that's going to come. Have you heard or know how big a shift are we going to see by 2020?
Well, I don't think anybody can define the shift, but it's going to be it's an ongoing wave that we're part of. It's like riding a crest on a surfboard. What we're into now is the information age that we talked about, where we were able to, in that third generation, be able to have a computer in your desk and have an email. Today, if you have a computer in your desk and you're receiving 1,000 emails a day, let's see if you can process that. All right. So you're going to need help, and we need things to scan things. So if you're watching and listening to what's going on, we're not going to have driverless cars. To most of us, that seems weird, but this is 2016. Okay, we're going to be in 2020, not long from now, and to think that we're going to be able to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or I can do this now. I'm going to be in New York next week, but I could be in Pittsburgh probably in 3 weeks, and I could call Uber, and I can get in a car that may be driverless. That in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with those hills, and I can't even visualize that. Well, that's what they're talking about, this paradigm shift. A good way to look at it is Uber. So I just mentioned them. We'll talk to them a bit.
Right.
Who ever heard of that? I don't even know if I can pronounce it correctly. But do you know that they're in something like, I think, over 40-some countries, and they're, the amount of travel and transportation they provide eclipses taxi services and transportation that we have now by, 100 times. That's unbelievable that could have happened so quickly.
Right.
Or if I'm in China, which I was last year, I'm talking about Jack Ma and this organization, this little company he started, and he was just a little school teacher, and in less than 10 or 12 years, it's the largest retailing organization in the world, and it's not stopping. All right, and so when they talk about paradigm shifts, everything we know, like I'll go to Crabtree Mall this weekend, but I know at Christmas time there'll be more people online ordering things than there will be going to that mall. And I do know that the people that have that mall have to pay for that brick and mortar. And why would I want to do that if what we've done is in 2020, the children may be born with a computer chip in them? IBM has it totally possible now that put a chip in your finger and do all the identification you need. So when you talk about a wave, it won't be a wave that hits us like maybe Matthew just did. It's a wave that has been hitting us, and we've been kind of getting up on it and falling off the surfboard a little bit. But this thing now is so strong, and our feet are getting better on this. We're starting to understand computers, communication, social networking better. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to have problems. We've got a lot of social problems in America and across the world that need to still be worked out. But look at the avenues, look at the opportunities. And young people today, graduating from college, ask them what they want to work for. 5 years ago, they might have said IBM, Cisco, SAS. What they say today is they want to work for themselves. They don't want any part of someone telling them what to do. And that's that culture I was talking to you about, how people communicate and think and act. And so, I'm actually very privileged to be here with you today because you represent something that's new, something that's exciting, and the people that you have listening to this represent that too, because their voice and what they want to understand and be part of is going to be very important, because this wave that we're talking about for 2020 or 2030 or whatever it's going to be, it's already on top of us, and it's just a matter of trying to make the best of it. Long answer again. I apologize. It does say Dr. Stockert. I talk too much.
Hey, no, you can't talk too much on this show. This is what we live for you to come and share. But also in that same vein, just what you all do, from what you all started doing to what you're doing now has kind of shifted. But you said in order to stay ahead of not necessarily the learning curve, but actually in essence, it is staying ahead of the learning curve. Organizations have to put themselves in, I guess, a different, a mindset in order to be ahead of the competition. To be where the competition is going, you have to be there now, or you have to at least see it and be making that part of what you do and who you are.
Exactly. Let me help you out a little bit as you think through that and reflect on it. What this book is about, and what I've been talking about here a little bit about, is called the journey, creating and sustaining high performance. If I talk to 10 people in the street and I say, "Are you a high performer?" they're immediately going to tell me, "Oh yeah, I've been that all my life." Or they're going to tell me, "No, I'm just a terrible person." But what is high performance? Well, I don't know. How do you catch it? Is it a disease? I mean, where does it come from? High performance is defined in the 21st century as your ability to learn and change and adapt. And the reason is because of this wave that you asked me about in paradigm. If we're having to float on this, then we have to learn how to learn with and adapt and make something out of nothing. We have to create value where there is maybe sand. All right. So what we're talking about here is that organizations have had to change. If you look in the past, I worked for Carolina Power and Light, as I mentioned earlier, and what a utility did was they made electricity. There was something called a generation station. There were transmission lines or distribution lines, and then you turn your light on. And the mission statement said 99% of the time, when you turn that light on, it'll come on. And if it doesn't, then we'll fix it and get it on as fast as possible. Well, look at today. If you want to generate your own electricity, you can. We have things now called microgrids. We have electricity that I can buy, and I can choose in California if I want a Jewish, or I want a Baptist, or a Methodist electron. I can probably order that special if I want it. Now, don't tell me how they do that, because I don't know. But I can do that. I can put things on my house, and right now it's getting cheaper that I can go out to Lowe's and buy these incredible looking shingles that look real, but they're solar panels, for God's sakes. And I can attach them. I can generate enough electricity. If I generate enough of it, I'll sell it to the local utility company. And then the even more interesting part about all of that is that FERC, which regulates all this nationally, has just now said that you can no longer have a service territory. So now, if I'm and I've worked with some folks up at National Power in New York, who's an English company that's National Power from England, to see how kinky this gets. All right, they can come to North Carolina and build something. Iberdrola, which is a Spanish company which owns a company in New York, is building solar panels throughout eastern North Carolina. Well, wow. I mean, that means that it's no longer a monopoly. It's completely broken apart. Well, think of what that does to the organization. You can't build a bunch of blocks in hierarchical order and put very smart and bright people in as sort of stage gates for saying it's right or it's wrong. Now you're going to have to operate in a very flat thing. And what you do is you compete on a learning curve. And what that learning curve is you have to learn with your customers to create value or to satisfy or to be able to pursue excellence on a continuous basis as you adapt and build and shape your marketplace. That is a big difference from when I started my career in business and when I was a manager inside organizations. Think what that does not only for our corporations, but think what that also means to something like the governments that we're part of. Our government cannot be like it always was. It's got to be a lot more flexible and dynamic, and it's got to be very ethically founded. I think that as listening to here earlier to your speaker, I think people like her have a lot to say to us about the ethics and our core values that we have to have. And if we enter this world without that ethical, moral compass, then it's not going to be good. And every day we hear more and more things about people that have lost their way in business. My bank is Wells Fargo, and look what they're suffering through right now. Right. And look at all the people that suffered when people reacted to it. And so we don't want this in the 21st century. We want to be able to be on a journey where we create and we sustain excellence, not only in the companies, but also for the people that inhabit them. I sound like a minister here.
No, but I want you to keep going, because I want you to kind of tie, again, the journey, when you're talking about the book, but also the companies that you work with and you're involved with. How would they need a copy of this book to understand what they need to do going forward? Is that a good, I won't say a Bible, but and I won't even say a policy and procedure manual, but there's an ideology that they need to, I guess, have going into the 21st century ahead of the learning curve?
Well, I'm smiling right now because you're testing my moral compass, aren't you? My immediate response is, oh my God, everybody needs this book, But the reality of it is I don't think it's going to be a bestseller real fast, all right? But what the book was written for was to provide a guidance for a leader or manager who is thinking about that they need to build an organization, or they have to take an organization that exists and kind of get it ready for the 21st century in this paradigm shift you talked about. It has guidance in it. It was not written as a specific book for leadership or an individual, but from an organizational change, sort of an OD type of guide. And it represents, 30 years of my learning and maybe more than that, actually, and learning given to me by my clients and customers about what it takes, And that journey for an organization is sort of like founding a church, or you're starting a small company, or you're starting a university or anything. It's a very straightforward kind of journey. You start out and your first thing is, what's our common language? How do we know what our values are and what our vision is and what our mission is? And, I don't know if we call him our tech, or somebody that's sitting across from me that every now and then smiles and nods to keep me talking. but he has a military outfit on, and so I assume that he has spent a little bit of time in the military, and I know when he would identify what I'm about to say. You have to learn the language. If you don't have a common language, think of what it takes for an engineer to talk to an accountant. They can't talk. They have no common language. So how do you create a common language? The second thing is, okay, I got my common language, but now what's the process? We have a lot of opportunities, and I can talk about military, where people have really had failed in their mission because their processes were different, and even though they were put in a team, they couldn't interact together. And then thirdly, okay, now I got all this together, and I got people thinking together and talking and working. How do I control it? How do I govern this thing, not from a point of view of inspection and monitoring and judgment, but from one of promotion and facilitation and accountability? Because anybody will tell you on a sports team, a coach can tell you everything he wants, but on Saturday or Tuesday night or Thursday night, when you go on that floor, there is no coach there beside you. It is what you think, communicate, and act, and how you perform. You either achieve excellence and become all you can be, or you probably don't do as well. Sometimes you might win and not do as well, and that might lead you to think that you're okay, but you're not. And then, once you've got some of that together, then you've got to start thinking about now, what does it mean in terms of how people actually do perform? So now you're going to talk about leaders. When I started my career, if you had John Wayne at the top or somebody that looked like John Wayne, then you had the leader. All right. But today, the way I just described all these things that are happening, everybody has to be a leader, and they have it within it. So if you're put in a position of influence or authority, your role should be to bring that out in people. And if you're not bringing it out in it, then you're not only doing that person disjustice, but you're probably not going to get what you want because you haven't built the culture and the leadership culture that's needed to make it happen. And so that's why you might change a coach, or you might do that because you're trying to find out can somebody do more with this than what's being done now.
Wow.
And then finally, you get it all together, then it's all about strategy. If I can think it, I can visualize it, I can make it happen. I don't know that any executive I've ever worked with that's really good or bright hasn't been able to do just that. But when they turn around and give it to somebody to do it, they fall flat on their face. And the reason is that they probably haven't done all these things to maximize the potential, both human and organizational. And so therefore, the organization is not ready to adapt. It's not ready to learn. It's not ready to move forward and capture the marketplace or be able to introduce a new program. And so we look at something like Apple and Jobs and what he did. Brilliant mind, didn't know anything about programming, didn't care, but understood about listening to customers and being able to get people to do things, sometimes in weird and mysterious ways. Well, that's the 21st century. How could you not be a young person coming out of high school or college and not be so enthusiastic about this opportunity? I grew up in the 60s, and I remember coming out of high school and entering college. I didn't think I was very bright. I turned down a presidential appointment to the Air Force Academy. I turned down several college scholarships because growing up on the farm, I didn't think I was smart enough. All right. Today, with our incredible machines that we have and what we expose kids to, they know they're smart enough. They just need to know how to make it happen, how to be focused, and how to be able to make something that's incredibly good and do it in a moral and ethical way.
That you said a lot, but that's it in a nutshell. And I'm gonna try to just sum up a little bit about, I guess, what you're saying. A leader, well, you have to be a leader, but also you have to be developing other leaders in that company to do the job that they do with a leadership mentality. And if they got, I guess,
let's make it simple for your viewers. Are you being a leader right now?
Yeah.
Are you developing me?
We're developing each other.
Are you helping me learn?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Have I helped you to see some things?
Definitely.
Well, when I grew up, a leader was 6 foot tall and they had all the answers, and you got degrees or you got answers. Today, we know a leader is only a leader because followers let them be that. All right. And in a world that changes every 30 seconds, that's the only way you will be a leader. And the only reason I'm going to let you be a leader is because you show respect by listening to me. And I'll only let you be a leader because you are allowing me to be influenced and add my value and create value. So you are my reward, not my harm. And so right now, you and I, hopefully, actually all three of us here, are being leaders because we're trying to help a lot of people, other places, think, reflect, and maybe we say something accidentally. In my case, you be very professional.
No,
That might give them an idea or something, or give them a little sense of hope that they might do something. And if that were the case, then unbelievable. It would be neat. And so every time when I go to sleep at night, I just hope then when I say my prayers that I have added some value somewhere in some way. But I'll never know that. Just like I'll never know if I've done everything right to get to the right place when this life's over. But that's what a leader is. They don't take anything for granted. They don't play games. They might sometimes be kind of tough and rough. They might sometimes actually do the wrong thing. But you know that they're looking out to create value for themselves and others. And they're looking out for the common good, not just one person's good. So if that helps thinking about a leader.
Yeah, it does, and even on a large scale, it helps just thinking about what we all need to do going forward. And one of the other things that you said outside of that, but is inclusive, is that you have to have more character and a more compass and it's sort of you got to self-monitor who you are and what you're about and what your values are, because if they're not on the up and up, then certainly any product or service that you have to offer is not going to be on the up and up. So you're going to shoot yourself in the foot just but not being of sound moral character along with the product or service that you offer. Even as a leader, you got to be morally right. You got to be about you got to have the best interests of everybody and not just your own personal interests to really succeed in what you're trying to achieve, because you're trying to move everybody forward, and you actually you're learning at the same time that you're doing, but you got to also have, I guess, knowledge thereof and be learning at the same time, because things are happening at the I guess at the drop of a hat. Things are changing all the time. You don't have time to build a building to go and set in and be there for 30 years. Now, you got to be. It's not gonna move that slow anymore.
No. Well, and back to what you're talking about. We often look at churches being our moral compasses, and they serve a real good purpose, regardless of what religion or whatever, when it's done properly. But the whole moral compass you get, and I speak my own journey here. I also received when I was working for my doctorate, I received a lot of support and a scholarship to go get a doctor of divinity and become a minister. And I felt that calling a little bit in me. And I went to my brother for advice. I'm one of 5 kids, and so I have a brother that's absolutely a flim-flam man, and he's a car salesman, and you'd never want to date him to date your daughter and that kind of thing. So I went to him and said, I'm thinking about this, and I'm really conflicted on it because I want to do something that's a little bit more than just be a car salesman like you. And he looked me in the eye and he said, "You idiot." He said, "I save more souls on a daily basis than anybody does in a church. How I sell cars, how I provide transportation, how I help families grow. Don't you think that is a moral calling?" And of course, I took it to heart, processed it a little bit. And so I then decided to take a different route in terms of finishing my graduate degrees and stuff. So for me, I believe that every company that succeeds has to have a moral compass. And you see it more and more every day. And there are wonderful firms here in our local chapter can do that. Business is not always about greed. I will admit that it has a nice history of that. But when you look at the people that you admire, the people that really may have moved the needle in something, and they're in organizations, there are people that had a moral, ethical foundation, where it came from, how it was created, many different ways. But until you have that, I don't think you'll ever be able to pursue excellence and be able to maximize both your organization and your company's potential. And so, to me, that's kind of like in your observation, is that it's about that moral compass is more important today. We teach something called developmental leadership. It's the use of learning to achieve potential. and to capture it. And we teach it becoming Lord of the Rings. And the three rings are, the center part is your ethical foundation. Your second part is your learning discipline. Are you focused on learning with people and interacting with people, or are you just trying to read it in the book, or you think you know everything, or you already have everything? And then the third part of the ring is called the logical, rational part of it, in which you build your how you think and you interact and you systems think. You're either thinking that way or you're thinking a very limited way in terms of thinking linearly in a straight line all the time instead of being able to see the bigger holistic picture. So building leaders that way and helping them look at it, but it all starts with that ethical foundation. It's not about political correctness. It's not about structure. It's about what you stand for. And once you figure that out and that self, your self-confidence and your willingness to participate and create things with people explodes, and good things happen.
I can agree with that because I know from experience that that have happened in my own life on a personal level. So
Good.
But also too, I want you to hold up the book and just let people see exactly what it looked like and let them know how they could get the book. I don't know if it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but kind of just hold it up so they can.
Yeah,
see
it's on. Here it is. It's on Amazon and it's at Lulu. It's actually published here in Raleigh, believe it or not, or printed. I shouldn't say published. And it's not inexpensive, so I have to tell you that. But it is a book that does provide a framework. Now, I wouldn't give this book to someone as a guidance on a personal level. This is focused on managers who are trying to build organizations or do things, and that's what it's aimed at. It gives you a guidebook for how to build an organization and sustain it at a very high level.
Now, is that small businesses, or it don't matter what size, or startups, mid-level companies?
I work with a company in Erie, Pennsylvania, that when I started working with them, their revenues on an annual basis was around $500,000. When I stopped working with them, it was $400 million. I worked with Johnson & Johnson all over the world and working in their organizations. They have all the right stuff, but how do you help somebody in Korea or somebody in Belgium take that and put it together? Or how about somebody in New Jersey or California?
Right.
And then I also work with a small company up in New York now that when I first started working with them was around 15 million, and they're going to be topping out about 65 or 70 million this year in revenues. So, my belief in what's in this book, and the only reason I probably waited till now, is that I like working. You can already tell I have a big mouth. I like working with people, and I like learning with people. Okay. So I wasn't really encouraged. I wrote a lot of stuff, but I've never really put a book together. And I had some clients that just grabbed me by the neck, told me they wouldn't work with me anymore until I did this. And so we finally got it together and out the table. And so I guess that kind of led me here, because I don't expect it to ever be a bestseller. But if somebody sometime might find this in one of those used bookstores and pick it up and go, there's some interesting stuff in this. And it was a pleasure doing it, and that's not true. It was an absolute drudgery doing this. And I couldn't have done it without my trusted sidekick, Deborah Underwood, who's been at my side as our business manager for something like 22 years. I couldn't have done any of this stuff without my family supporting me, because it's not easy when you choose this kind of line of work. You have to be very adaptable. You have to be on the road all the time. You miss a lot of ball games. You miss church once in a while. There's all kinds of things. But it's interesting, and we called it the journey because it's not a sprint, and there's no shortcuts. And once you start it, you shouldn't give up on it. If you really truly are passionate. So I don't take on any clients that I guess you would call it vetting. I'm looking for a passionate, excited person who the things that I've shared for the last few minutes, they show me in their eyes that there's a spark and they want to be part of it. All right, and if it's there, then I got the kindling. We can make it happen. All right. And that's kind of my career for the last 30 years.
That's awesome. Dr. Tim, I appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate you bringing the book, The Journey, and sharing that, and not just the book, but just the whole, well, your whole journey and the experience, and just the information that you've just shared here today. Going forward, I think the Origin got more than what they expected. And I know we do have a lot of execs that do listen to the show and tune in. There are a lot on LinkedIn that do catch the show. So I do want to thank the audience for tuning in. Hopefully you can take this concept, the paradigm shift, run with it. Or if not, the book is here. Dr. Tim, did you give them your social media information to contact you?
Yeah, I think I did. I think Deborah did that earlier this morning.
No, to the audience.
Now. Oh, okay. Well, we're at Innova.com. You can go on at any time. We're located in North Raleigh, our offices and everything. We've been there for 15 years now, 15 years downtown. So you need to get me personally at t.stockert at innovagroup.com, or you can just put innovagroup.com and you can go right onto our website and it has everything there. It'll be very simple.
Let them know how that's spelled. Innova.
It's INNOVA GROUP. Be one word. .com.
Innovagroup.com.
Yeah. If you get Innova, the Frisbee company, you've got the wrong one. All right.
All right, Dr. Tim, we appreciate you for coming on today, and I appreciate you for sharing. Feel free to come back anytime. Lots of good information. I definitely want to plug into it. It is a I guess a mindset shift that I needed to hear today. So I don't think things happen by accident. I think things happen for a purpose, on purpose. So I know I'll take away a lot from just sitting here beside you today, and I appreciate it.
Well, no, the appreciation is here. You've tolerated me very well, and I thank you for that. When I worked at Carolina Power and Light, Sherwood Smith, who was the CEO at that time, used to call me the Flake, and he used to send me all over the place because, and when you came to my office, there was a Mickey Mouse watch on the wall, and this is 1979, 1980 now. So you can imagine how weird I was in a Southern utility company. But he tolerated me well and allowed me to try to help to build some things like, Brunswick and Sharon Harris and things of that sort. But no, thank you very much.
All right. And again, audience, we'll be back next Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Lifelong Learners. And I'm your talk show host, Terrence Perry. And you all have a great evening and the most prosperous and productive week and weekend to come.
Thank all of you for tolerating.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.